The Federal and Velevin Hypermarket jointly present the Thoothukudi Marathon 2024 to raise awareness on drug abuse. The event is co-presented by Edison Cardio Care Center, Tiruchendur, powered by L. Anand Jewelry and St. Mother Teresa Engineering College, Thoothukudi.
Hello and welcome to Culture Vibes, the Federal's special program in which we talk to writers and artists about the world. In the late 1970s and 80s, Assam was shaken by an insurgency that left behind deep scars, both on the land and in the hearts of its people. It is within this charged landscape that Dhrubajuti Bora, one of Assam's finest writers, who is currently the Vice Chancellor of Shrimanta Shankardev University of Health Sciences, sets his novel, The Rainbow Runners, which he has translated from the Assamese. In Assamese, it was called Arth, that is meaning. It has been published by Yogi Books. Mr. Bora, welcome to the show. Thanks much indeed for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you. It's nice to be here.
Thank you. So, at the outset, let me quickly ask you about the novel that is The Rainbow Runners. And it's such a poignant title. It captures the personal and political consequences of this unrest through the haunting story of a man named Shriman, whose encounter with this violent crime becomes it's actually the murder of a man that becomes an inescapable shadow in some sense in his life. And you weave together, of course, themes of memory, trauma, and that, of course, very importantly, that elusive quest for meaning. I wanted to ask you: did you deliberately want to? Is this the form that the story arrived? You arrived at the story that it is a reflection of some sort of end of innocence in Assam, where the past is never quite behind, in the sense that it's always looming and insisting on being reckoned with. You know. So, if you could tell us something about the genesis of the novel.
See, this particular novel, which has been named in English as The Rainbow Runners, is actually
Yes.
a part of a trilogy novel. So this is the second part of the novel.
Of
The
course.
first part, which has also been brought out by the Neogi Books, in the name of An Elegy for the East. There I have written about the genesis of the whole problem of insurgency, its various outcomes, its effects, and everything. In this particular novel, which is the second part of the trilogy, I have tried to delve deeper into the psyche of man who get caught up in this particular maelstrom of violence, counter violence, terror, counter terror, and also becomes an unwilling accomplice into some of these problems. So here, the protagonist, Sriman, which is a very young boy, who was at that time practically unemployed and a loafer, was going onto the banks of Brahmaputra where he happened to see a murder. And this was not a simple murder, it was a secret killing in the evening of somebody by someone. And he had seen the dead body. And it dawned on him as to what he had seen. And the whole thing became a terror, horror filled experience for him, which chased him all throughout. So, he became so afraid that he used to see the dead body everywhere practically, especially the face of the dead man. And in his journey through life, he went through the murky world of journalism into a very different world of which people do not have any idea even. You see, when the insurgency progressed, some of the insurgents compromised and came into terms with the state, and they surrendered to the state and became people supported by the state, and they worked for the state also, and they have amassed money, they have amassed a lot of influence. He got into touch with one of those groups, and in this journey through these groups, he again happened to see a secret killing again. So that had completely unsettled him and he lost his mental faculties. So he had to undergo a lot of treatment. Then he had circumstances took him to the Himalayas, where in the Ganj, in the abode of the Dalai Lama, he started running a travel agency, which was again owned by these dadas or these Sarandari persons. But there, he had got very varied experience and come into terms with life to a great extent. He had met a girl with whom he had fallen in love.
Yes.
But their love story was such that both of them were seeking meanings to their shattered lives. And he thought that it is this love that is going to redeem him. But the girl had other ideas. She also came from a shattered background, and she ultimately became a Buddhist nun. At
Right.
that point of time, he had decided to come back to Assam again and take up his old vocation of writing, and he hoped that it will be able to give him a new meaning. So, this running after new meaning in life, running after some sort of anchor in this turbulent world, that is the theme of the Rainbow Runners. The things we imagine, things we want to be, what happens to them in reality, in actuality. So that is the basic theme of the novel.
Right. The title, sir, it's very fascinating. Of course, in Assamese, it's earth. That is meaning. That is also very symbolic of the theme of the novel. But
Right.
the Rainbow Runners evokes a sense of vibrancy, movement, and yet you have much of the novel dealing with darkness, trauma, and some sort of paralysis, maybe. So, how did you sort of conceive of this title, and what layers of meaning do you hope it adds to his story and the larger overarching theme of the novel?
During his sojourn in the Himalayas, he not only came into contact with love, but he came into contact with religion and trying to delve in the meaning of life through religion, through Buddhism.
Buddhist
And
teachings,
these are the sort of sources, these are the sorts of looking for meanings that have led to dreaming. Not only he has dreamt, but his friends also dreamt. Everybody dreamed of a peaceful, beautiful life, fulfilling life. And in these, the attempts they took to achieve that, that is the theme where the rainbow runners came. They run after rainbows, and rainbows are real as well as unreal.
this balance of the personal and the political and the intimate and and the turbulent in that. How did you work on that, and how easy or difficult was it for you as a writer?
It was not easy at all. That much I can tell you, because what I another search that I made is what is the future of this insurgency movements which
Yes.
aims for a independence of a part of the land, independence from the country and having their own independent land. What happens? So, in this novel, the protagonist Sriman also comes into contact with the Tibetan emigre politics. There, the Tibetan emigres, they are staying in India but dreaming of an independent Tibet. Though at the heart of their hearts, they know that that will not be possible, yet the dream does not leave them, it does not die. So, in the same way, the dream of freedom never dies. It may not always be political freedom, it may not always be separation, but yes, the question of identity and question of searching for yourself is intimately related with it. So that is how it brings in the political message. That is how it brings in a sense of the wider world. At the same time, the experiences, personal experiences, bring it happening in a closed space or in a narrow space.
Yeah.
That too brings in a universal feeling that we all do share of love, fulfillment, and ultimate resurrection of our lost soul.
Absolutely. And did you want Shriman's story to be a microcosm of the larger story of the Assamese youth who were caught in the crossfire of violence?
Yes, it's sort of, it is, it does reflect the sum total of experience of that particular phase in the insurgency ridden times of Assam. And these are the lessons that it has taught. We cannot afford to forget these lessons because otherwise we may be condemned to live through all these again. So that is how it does reflect the experience of a generation, part of the generation, and through this character, the collective conscience and experience of the generation.
And another thing that strikes me about the novel is how you sort of depict past, in the sense that past is not something that will not come back, that it can always catch hold of you, that it has its own ways of catching up with you. What assessment do you have of in the context of Assam? How do you look at the idea of past, and and in the many ways that it sort of catches up with your characters?
See, the past is not something that you have left behind for good.
Yes.
Past is like your shadow. It doesn't leave you. And you have to come into terms with it. And when you can come into terms with your past, which is concrete, which you have experienced through your senses, through your intellect, through your mind, that is something you need to remember so that you don't repeat the same wrongs and same follies again in the future.
Right. And then there's this bit about memories that, and of course that also happens to be a part of your past also. Do you see in some sense Shriman's memory, that his attempts to sort of you know uh, disconnect himself from a part of his past in that sense, and his search for solace in the sense that that he's looking for something that could perhaps redeem him, and he wants to avoid that the part that sort of traps him in the cycles of guilt and fear in that sense.
It is true that all of us, whose symbol for me is Sriman, we do want to forget some of our past. We don't want to forget some of the memories with which we are not very comfortable with. And if these memories are very dangerous, if these memories are very hurting, then you want to come out from the shell, come out and have a new life and start anew. So herein lies the question of redemption. If the memories were of sin, if the memories were those of wrongdoings, then you, and if the memories have damaged you as a person, you want a redemption. And through that redemption, people search everywhere for a way of redemption, which in this novel we have tried love, we have tried politics, we have tried self realization as the paths. So that is how it is.
Right. And it's very rare that you have writers uh, translating their own work. Perhaps it is because one may not have the same level of felicity with two different languages. But in your case, it's totally different. You are equally proficient with Assamese, but English as well. And I wanted to understand: was it how was the process of translation for you? That since you were translating your own work, was it easy to get those nuances because it was all in your mind?
It is never easy.
Yeah,
It is never easy,
yeah,
but it is very satisfying if you can bring in the sense with which you have written the original into the translated work. You see, at one time, I thought, can I write in English? And I set myself a standard that if a respectable publishing house takes up one of my novels written in English, then I will know that at least I can write in English. So one of the top took up one of my English written novel written in English, uh, uh, Sleepwalker's Dream. That is about that actually forms the fourth. If you say the quartet exists in literature, then that is the fourth part. Sleepwalker's Dream. The name suggests that the whole journey of insurgency may be like a sleepwalker's dream. Anyway, so after that, I thought that if I can do that, then why not translate? So I seriously started translating my works, and uh, I need an editor, of course, definitely very good editor after I have translated. But I have been fortunate to get such editors, and ultimately it came out.
right. So you are a doctor by profession, and such a prolific writer who has written across genres. Uh, what is it that drew you to fiction? What is it that you wanted to achieve? As a writer of fiction.
It's very difficult to say what you want to achieve as a writer of fiction. You want to achieve something uh, that your readers like what you have written. They think about it, they appreciate it. There's nothing greater prize a author can get in his life than the appreciation from his readers, from his those who read and like his work. But self translation is never very easy. But as I've told you, it is very satisfying. And I happen to be a doctor, that is my profession. But writing has somehow become my passion, and that sustains me. Writing gives me a pleasure of self contemplation as well, contemplating the society and the world. And the product of those contemplations I can put before my readers for them to appreciate or to disagree with. In this way, possibly, a writer wants to project his own worldview, at least to his readers, and possibly that is what every writer does, and that is what possibly I am also doing.
So one question about Assam, and it was at the center of a lot of debate a few years ago when there was a lot of this conversation around CA and NRC. And how do you look at these debates?
You see, Assam, originally the local people, the indigenous people, they belong to various different ethnicities, different races, having different languages. They themselves, provide a very wide mosaic of the world. But Assam is also an area where, due to some historical reasons, lot of migration from outside has taken place. Lot of indentured laborers were brought in to these areas from various parts of India to work in the tea gardens and also road building and all other things. And similarly, when India was one, there was no India Pakistan. From those days, during the British rule, lot of people from Bengal, East Bengal, came into these areas where there was lot of available land and less population. So even before independence, a huge migration has taken place. After independence, also it has continued. So this has given rise to apprehension among all the sections of the local indigenous people that one day they may be swamped by the people who have migrated from the outsides. But I want to look at certain historical facts. The people who have migrated, especially to the Brahmaputra Valley, are integrated with the wider society to a great extent. They speak practically, at least in the public, the same language, Assamese language. Most of them read in the Assamese medium. Now only the English pad has come. And they live together and with quite harmony. So this migration, if we can ensure that there will be no future migrations of these scales, can be a real game changer for development of Assamese society, Assamese language, and also Assamese literature, and they can be a very important aspect for economic development of this area. We have to look at that aspect also. Migration is always not negative. And migrations that you cannot control, that was historical. You can control it now, but what has happened has happened. The idea will be to integrate them, bring them, respect them, and together build a future for everyone. So the Ka and the yeah, all these are quite political at the same time, possibly sometimes required, but there are other avenues available. A a person coming from foreign could have taken citizenship in the very different ways, as is being done in various other parts of the India. For that, Ka was possibly not required. But these are political things, and we have to deal with this. We have to come into terms with all these things, and I think the political leadership, sagacity of the political leadership, is very important in this case.
Another question was about the writing from Assam, sir. In recent years, we have seen a great deal of writing, drawing on, of course, real life experiences of writers who have perhaps lived through that time, perhaps also in a way been witness to those things. So if you could give us a sense of the writing that has come out of Assam, especially dealing with this insurgency.
Yes, a lot of writings have come out about insurgency, but most of them are quite run of the mill, describing stories and about own personal experience. They don't have a wider view of the whole social problem, political problem of insurgency. But some do really have. Some do really have these characters, and those are the novels or writings that are that can stand up to the scrutiny of times in the future. So yes, lot of not only on insurgency, on lot of other aspects,
Okay.
especially the varied tribal life and the interactions with them. Those have also become very important aspects of new writing in Assamese.
Right. And one question about when you write as a fiction writer, when you draw on real events, there is always a risk of not letting it reflect in a way that becomes too obvious. So how do you work on your characters and on your plot in a way that sort of remains that retains its character as a fiction and not resemble something that that is more like a work of non-fiction.
Uh, I believe in certain things regarding fiction writing. Fiction writing is totally an artificial world that a fiction writer creates. It may not resemble anything in the real world, though it is based on the real world. So it is entirely the creation of the writer. Even the situation, even the characters, everything. Recently, I am writing a long story. I have titled it Siege of Guwahati, as if there was big war and the whole Guwahati city was surrounded by enemy. A siege has happened. It never happened in history. But suppose it had happened, what would have been it like? So it's fiction writer's world is always a created world, always an artificially created world, and created artificially so that the real world can be depicted with more truth and honesty, and people can also learn, uh, people can realize what actual the truth was. That's how I look at it.
Interesting. And then one last question, sir, about we began with, of course, Shriman, and let's end with Shriman and his quest for redemption in some sense. That how do you look at when a character or somebody like Shriman, his quest at redemption in a sense that when you have lived through a time and see something so traumatic, this possibility of a reconciliation, is that possible? Is it possible for people to sort of move and sort of come to terms with that kind of those tragedies that they have been a witness to, and ultimately move on, in a kind of a break from the past?
You see, there were thousands and thousands of boys just like Sriman at that time in Assam. And they have reacted to the situational experience that they had of insurgency in different ways. Some have become gundas, some have become extortionists, some have become farmers and went on farming, some have become teachers, and some suffered from great disillusionment and depression. ultimately ruining their life, ultimately becoming a human wreck, sort of. So, in this milieu, everybody that I have talked with of these kind of people, they were searching for some ways of redemption, some ways of coming into terms with life, some ways of coming in from the shell of past experience and to renew life with a new zeal. Those who succeeded have succeeded, and it is really a very human, I think, in a way, under such situations, a very universal story too.
Great. On that note, thank you so much, sir. It was an absolute pleasure talking to you.
It was very nice. Thank you so much.
The Federal and Valevin Hypermarket jointly present the Thoothukudi Marathon 2024 to raise awareness on drug abuse. The event is co-presented by Edison Cardio Care Center, Tiruchendur, powered by L. Anand Jewelry and Saint Mother Teresa Engineering College, Thoothukudi.